Hey BookTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer, and today I wanted to share my goals for 2020. Well, it's that time of year when everyone is sick with colds like I am, and everyone is setting goals. I really love taking the time to reflect back on the past year and look forward to the future and see what we can change to do better. And one of the main things that I felt last year was that I put too much time into reading. I was reading a very high amount of books, between 12 and 18 books a month. And I felt like it was too much. I really enjoyed it, but by the end of the year I was burned out. I think I read 11 books in November and 10 in December. And I kind of took those months as a break from pushing myself so that I could come back into the new year excited to read again. But I also just wasn't able to put as much time towards other things like BookTube and my family. I did put time towards writing, which was really good. I'm glad I prioritized that, and I want to continue that into this next year. But I do want to be more involved in BookTube again this year and come back and finish my break. And I also want to make sure I'm prioritizing my family over reading rather than reading over spending time with like my kids or my husband. This next year, my goal for reading is to read between 10 and 12 books per month, and I want 12 to be my limit. I don't want to read more than 12. I'd really like to read around 10 a month, which would put me at about one book every 3 days, which I feel is very reasonable. I'm a pretty quick reader, and some of the books I have on my TBR list for the year are longer, but they also have quite a few really small ones or middle grade ones which tend to read faster. And I also want to read more graphic novels and comic books this year, which are also quicker reads. So I feel that my goals are fairly reasonable and will give me the time that I feel I need to read, but also help me limit the time I'm putting towards reading so I can focus on other things as well. So that's my first goal. My second goal is one that I have every year, and it is to read at least one library book a month. And I really like to do this because I love to support the local library. And our library, I live in a small town in Utah that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but our library is amazing. They have 4 different days where they do story time with the kids. They have all sorts of programs. They've had reading programs all year long, like the summer reading program, but they've done it all year. They have a fabulous amount of books. When I request books, they almost always get them. I really love our library and I love supporting it, and I think one of the ways to support a library is by reading books from the library. I also think it's great because then I can read books that are on my list to read without having to buy all of them, which is obviously really great. My next goal is also one that I have every year, and it is to read one nonfiction book each month. A lot of the nonfiction books that I read are self-help type books, books about business or writing. This year I want to focus on more books about writing to help hone my craft. I read a couple books on writing as a craft this year and I loved them and I felt like I learned a lot, and so I want to find some really good quality ones. If you have any suggestions for books on writing, let me know in the comments below because I am in search of them. But I do enjoy the occasional historical read, biographies, autobiographies, memoirs, those types of things, and so I will probably read a few of those as well throughout the year. A new one this year is to read a comic book or graphic novel each month. My brother has given me a list of comic books that he thinks that I will enjoy, mostly Marvel, but a couple of Batman ones, and I want to read a lot of the ones that he's recommended to me, and so I think one a month would be good because that will get me reading them more consistently. Comic books and graphic novels are things that I've never read a lot before, but I think that I could get really into. So the next goal that I have is a little bit different than what I've done previously. Previously I've done a goal of reading 10 classics a year, which puts me at about one a month, but then gives me a little bit of leeway in case one's really long, like David Copperfield or The Count of Monte Cristo, where it takes me longer to get through them. This year, I don't want to be pushing myself to read classics because I enjoy reading classics, but sometimes I will feel like I'm trying to rush through them and not enjoy them as much or not understand as much of them, and I don't want to be doing that. So my goal is to be consistently reading in a classic throughout the year. Always have a classic that I'm kind of in the middle of that I read mostly daily in. I don't want to push myself, but I do want to keep reading classics, so that's my goal, is to just have one that I am currently in the middle of and reading kind of on the back burner. Something I want to do is to participate in a readathon quarterly. I really like readathons. I don't want to overdo it this year. In the middle of the year last year I kind of overdid it with readathons, I think, and it was fun. But because I'm trying to cut back on how many books I'm reading, I'm going to cut back on how many readathons I do as well. I also have a TBR list for the year again. I have cut it in half. This year I only have 36 books on there, so that gives me 3 a month that I can pick from my TBR list, and then still gives me plenty of other books to pick from my monthly TBR. And I want to finish all of those this year. Currently, the series that I am in the middle of is at 23, and I'll talk about that in a future video pretty soon because the way I have series set up and organized now is a little bit different, but I'm currently in the middle of 23 series that I want to finish, read all of them, and I want to keep that list at 20 or under, and I have some books that I want to read this year that are parts of series, so I will have to finish up some of the series there if I want to reach that goal. So reading series is going to be one of my higher priorities this year. And then I have all of the books that I own on my Kindle, all of the books that I own in my hard copy library, and all of the books that I own on Audible in a list in my bullet journal. And I keep that, I'll just kind of show you, it's right here. And I want to read all of these books by the end of the year, and that's kind of my goal every year, is to finish the books that I started with at the beginning of the year that I owned. I want to finish them and have read them by the end of the year, and I didn't quite manage it this year, but I was really close. And I don't have to finish the year having read, because I will acquire more throughout the year and then I'll have a new list for next year, but I want to finish those books. Or if I read them and I decide I don't like them or don't want to own them, then I can get rid of them and not have to read them. And then I know that the books that I own are books that I want to be reading. So that's how I keep on top of that. So those are my reading goals for 2020, and really quickly I'll just tell you some of my goals for booktube and writing. And if you don't care about that, then you can just stop watching now and move on with your day. I'd really like to grow my YouTube channel this year, and I have some ideas for it. My goal for subscribers is 1,000 subscribers on my channel, which I think is a reasonable goal for 12 months, as long as some of my ideas work. We'll see how it goes. And then my main goal for YouTube is I want to upload every week again, and I want to make a video from my series that I want to do, Read Like a Writer, where I analyze books from a writer's perspective, and I want to make a minimum of 1 of those videos per month. This year, while I've taken a break from booktube, I've been more involved in Bookstagram, and I want to get even more involved in that. I've just kind of been posting stuff, followed a few people, but I want to find some more people to follow that I can have a real relationship with, rather than like bigger Bookstagram accounts. My goal is to post at least 1 post per week, and I have actually an idea that kind of goes along with the Read Like a Writer series for Bookstagram that I would like to do per month as well. And I'd really like to reach 500 followers on Instagram. I actually don't know if that's reasonable or not, because I'm not really sure what's normal on Instagram. I don't feel like I'm as involved or as savvy with Bookstagram as I am with Booktube. It's really easy for me to find new people to follow on Booktube, but I have a harder time on Bookstagram for some reason. In regards to writing, one of the things I'd like to do is to blog more consistently, and I've started blogging on Sundays because I don't like to work on Sundays, and so instead of writing in my novel, I've been writing on my blog, and I've really enjoyed that, and I'd like to post at least 3 posts per month on that, more for personal reasons than for any business sort of thing, because I post very personal things on there about my family, and kind of I usually post like schedule things or lists that I'm excited about, and so it's very much for me, but that's my goal, is to write at least 3 weeks out of the month to write a blog post and post it. And then I have 1 main goal for writing, and then 3 that I'd like to get to if I can. So my main goal is to have a writing streak where I write every single day this year. And I made a page in my bullet journal this morning, I'll show it to you, where I can keep track of that streak, because I want it to be, I want to write every single day this year. And that can be one sentence. If I open it up and I write a sentence in my book, or you know, make 2 edits in my book or whatever, that will count. But I want to work on my writing every single day this year and have that as my minimum goal. The things that I'd like to be working towards as I'm doing that: very first, I want to finish my second draft. I am about 2/3 of the way through my second draft of my book, but the end I'm basically rewriting the middle right now, and I've just changed the end of my book, so I'm basically going to have to rewrite all of that as well. So I want to finish that here soon at the beginning of the, you know, the first part of this year. And then my writing group is commenting on all of the second draft stuff, and I want to go through and use their feedback to write my third draft. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to write more drafts after that or even send them out to readers, but that's my minimum with that book. And then this year, if I could this year have a really detailed outline for my next novel, and that's how I want to finish off the year, I'd be very happy with that. So those are my reading, writing, bookish, booktube type goals this year. I feel like I am cutting back a little bit, but it will still push me to try and find a balance between reading and booktube and writing and making sure I get all of the things I want done, even with 3 kids to run around after and stuff. So I'm excited though for this year. I think it'll bring great things. I'm feeling really, really excited because it's the beginning of the year, but I am trying to implement some systems and habits that will keep me working towards my goals even as the motivation wears off. So let me know in the comments below what your bookish goals are for next year. Do you set goals for reading, or do you simply read for fun? Do you like lists of books, or do you simply like to read on a whim? And let me know if you have any suggestions for habits that have worked for you, or systems that have worked for you to keep you motivated on your goals. Thank you so much for watching my booktube video. My bookish goals video. I will see you in the next one.